team news first of all. What are Connie's chances for Friday?
Yeah, good ones. We wouldn't have included him in the 21-man squad if we didn't think he'd a good chance of playing. Yeah, he's all good to go. We've got a few very close now that we've not put in. So fingers crossed. We give ourselves a chance again next week.
Is Connie ready for a big Headingley hurrah?
Yeah, I hope so, and I think so. And he's been a very popular player with our fans, very popular player internally with the rest of our players. Said we'll be sad to see him go. We did want to keep him. We'll be sad to see him go, and I think there'll also be an element of a sadness from Conrad. His reasons are his reasons, and as in a lot of cases in modern day sport, I can understand some of them, but nonetheless, he'll leave on our with our very best wishes, and he's made so many friends and been such a popular player here. I think everybody will remember his time, and he's been a cup winner here as well. We're hoping that this is not his last hurrah.
Absolutely. And you've spoken before about the possibility of people like Mikolai and King possibly returning for the playoffs. Is that still a possibility next week if you're in the playoffs?
Yeah, Mikolai and King are racing in there. Alex Mellor, we're pretty confident will be good to go. So Zane will be back from suspension. So possibly, fingers crossed, possibly James, if we get in there, we could have 3 or 4 troops returning for a playoff game next week. But we've got to get there first. We've got to get there, and we're not going to, of course, we'll be watching the game tonight and seeing how that unravels. But as we've always said, we can control what we can control. And we always felt coming into these last 3 games, given the proximity of Hull and Hull KR, where they sat in the competition, that those 2 games would be must-win games for us.
Even if that result tonight goes your way, there's still will be a reason to do well on Friday, though, won't there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're at home. We're in front of our fans for the last time this year. And, we want to get a good performance out against some rivals and finish as high up the ladder as we possibly can. Really simple reasons.
And if the result on Thursday doesn't go your way, obviously the pressure then is on Friday. What do you say to your players? Do you sort of reinforce what's at stake, or do you try and take the pressure off them?
Well, I think that's what we've been preparing for, James. So it's a little bit irrespective tonight. We're preparing for a must-win game. Again, a good team in front of our home fans. And we've had no other ifs or buts or permutations. We're going out tomorrow to take care of it ourselves, regardless of what happens. Regardless of what happens tonight. He's been proven, mate. You just can't rely on other things going your way around you. It's not the right thing to do. So we've just tried to create the right mindset this week that it's all about us, and it's all about getting that win tomorrow night. So that's how we've prepared. If it goes the other way, it's not going to be a case of, oh, it's all right now, boys, we can go out with a different attitude. Far from it. We've got to create the right attitude getting into this part of the season. We actually feel like we're in playoff territory now, and the season almost starts again. And that's what we said last week. While we had a disappointing performance last week, we sort of knew our team would change a little bit this week. We had to quickly leave that behind us because the competition is different this week for us. We're in sudden death football right from now. If it proves to be different tonight, then so be it. But we've very much adopted the mindset that generally, James, it's been a top 8 for a long time, this competition, and if you finish outside the 4, you've generally got three wins to get to where you want to get to, and that sort of starts tomorrow night for us, and that's the mindset that we've adopted, mate.
And without sort of sounding too hypothetical, with the players possibly coming back next week, do you feel like you could, if you do get into the playoffs, make a pretty decent splash?
Oh, look, we at half-time last week, we talked about what's our next actions, and that's after a poor performance, and what our next actions were going to be in that first set, in that next half, and what our actions are going to be in training this week and about the next game. And that's what it's always about the next game. So we're not looking at players coming back and making a splash. We've got to win tomorrow night, and then we'll look at it from there. Of course, as coaching staff, you're trying to plan and look beyond, but who knows what tomorrow night's going to bring us and what cards we're going to be dealt. I think we've had enough lessons this year that looking too far forward is a little bit of an impossibility at this stage. So we'll get tomorrow night done and dusted, and then we'll see where it's all at.
Just lastly for me, how do you read Hull KR right now then?
Really good. I think obviously the last two games have got a little bit more of the confidence back, and their attack has looked a lot better. I think last week would have been a real confidence boosting victory. Again, a good side in what were a must-win game for them. They did a really good job in a tight game on Castleford, and I think the bigger picture for them is where they've come from. I think last year they finished bottom last year, but they were starting to sow the seeds for trying to play a style of rugby that I know Tony would like, a style of rugby what were a little bit different and fitted them from a personnel and a profile type of view, and I think there's some real lessons in it for sticking with it and not changing to the point where they've turned into the team what they've turned into this year. That I think anybody that plays OKR is fully aware of the threats that their style of rugby can play, and there's at times it's high risk and very high reward, but also they've probably got a better balance to it too. So you've got to be on your toes and really expect the unexpected. Number one in offloads throughout the competition. They're really high on scoring from kick plays and productivity of the kicking game, which is clearly something that they spent a lot of time on working on as a threat. But the one thing I will say, James, about and what has stood out to me is their effort. Their effort defensively has been great for covering up and covering the small areas. And when it does go wrong, I think the scramble has been outstanding, and always a lot of bodies in the frame on kick plays and things like that. So they've really bought into what they're about and what they've tried to create, and I think it's a real nod to sticking with to being brave and sticking with it, and it's really they've reaped the rewards from it, and it's been an outstanding year for them.
Cheers, Rich. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks, mate.
Rich.
Yes, mate.
I know what you're saying about attitude and the mentality has to be exactly the same regardless of whether, however the result goes tonight. Does the personnel change if Castleford lose at all?
Does our personnel change?
Yeah, like the 17?
No. It's not even been a conversation, Matt. I've not mentioned attitude, have I? Mindset. We're not looking anything other than getting our best team available to us on the park tomorrow night and getting a good performance out there, irrespective of what comes next week. Irrespective. It's just the personnel absolutely won't change depending on what goes on tonight.
Okay.
I've got to be honest, we've not even mentioned tonight. It's not been mentioned in any of our team meetings, anything this week. We've always thought all along the way we'd have to beat Hull and OKR on the way in, and that's the position that we found ourselves in. And it's exciting, mate. I know we're not officially in the playoffs, but it's do or die rugby for us.
Mm-hmm. Does it help going into the actual playoffs having a game with so much riding on it?
Well, that's changing personnel based on a result tonight or going in waiting for a result. We want to get a good performance under the belt. Don't forget we got whacked last week as well. So trying to get our best performance out the week before the playoffs is very important. You don't want to go in, if we get in the playoffs, you don't want to go into the playoffs on the back of a heavy defeat and a performance that is not where you want it. So far from it. We've right from the changing rooms post game last week, we've adopted that mentality that we're in playoff football now.
Just on KR,
yep.
Are they almost the trickiest team to play against, given the way that they play a little bit different, I suppose, to everyone else? They almost look sometimes like they don't quite know what they're going to do themselves. So it must be hard to defend against them when they look like that.
and that makes it dangerous. And I say there's some high risk, high reward. They're prepared to, chance their arm on offloads is probably not the right thing to say, because they clearly, it's part of their DNA and style, and they clearly practice it. It's something that they work on. So, while it is a little bit, completion rates probably aren't as important for them, although they have definitely got a better balance on when, where, and how they play their offloads. But I think because they've worked on it for so long and gradually grown to know what it looks like and feels like for them, yeah, it is a bit unscripted at times, and it can be a little bit chaotic. So it might look chaotic for them, but it can also be chaotic for your defensive line. So your defensive line is, you can talk all week about stopping offloads, but I'm going to tell you some of the offloads will be difficult to stop. So I think composure is really important in your defensive line, and understanding about how you handle certain situations that may evolve. You might not know how that's going to look or where it's going to come from, but you do know at times you're going to have to keep some real composure, stability, and connection in your defensive line when some offloads and some of that ad-lib football comes. And certainly got 2 threats coming out of 9, even if one of they're both on the field at the same time, for chunks of the game as well, which gives them a little bit of a different look in attack. And as I say, the kicking game is really, really good, and they've got some good jumpers too. So yeah, it does. It asks plenty of questions of your concentration and your application defensively. Absolutely.
Cheers, Rich.